There's a Christian high school teacher in Virginia that was recently fired for not using the correct pronoun to refer to a trans student. So let's just get into it. I'll do one after another, starting with Miss Universe. So if you don't know about this, I don't blame you, of course, but the 2018 Miss Universe pageant will be held this Sunday in Bangkok. Steve Harvey will be hosting, and one of the biggest storylines this year is that for the first time in the 66-year history of the competition, a country has finally put forth a transgender contestant, and this honor belongs to Spain. So for most of the pageant's history, trans women were not allowed to compete, but back in 2012, they changed the rules to include male to female transgenders, and this is the first year that it's actually happened. Anyway, let's have a look at this contestant. Her name is Angela Ponce. She's 27, and as you'll see in a moment, she appears to have fully transitioned by now. So very quick, my policy that I've settled on when covering transgender individuals is that I always use their preferred name, but I don't use the preferred pronoun unless they fully transition, as in this case. And I know some of y'all are going to disagree with me on this, but you know, my thinking is that once the manhood has been formally surrendered, it's too late to reverse course, right? So I decide to just go ahead and flip the pronoun at this point. It's just me trying to be nice in light of a tragic situation, but this is as far as I'm willing to go. It does not mean that I support this rule change, because I absolutely do not. My view is that a lovely young Spaniard woman got screwed out of her rightful spot here in this pageant, so let's get into that. What I think is really messed up about all of this is that despite what Miss Universe showrunners tell the media and the public, this competition is largely a beauty competition. I mean, sure, there are other criteria that they look at to select a winner amongst this crowded field of 9s and 10s, but you do need to be extremely attractive to even get to this stage. I think we all know that. And so even if a trans woman can seemingly pass as a female, like Angela arguably could with her implants and hair and makeup and everything else, I still don't think it's fair to all of the biological girls that she beat out in Spain, and also to these other contestants that she'll be facing in the finals. I mean, I guess if I'm going to judge and compare the degree of unfairness in allowing transgender women to compete in beauty pageants versus in sporting events, then definitely it's more unfair in athletics in my opinion, but I still don't like it. Because again, just like in sports, it always seems to be the biological females who end up getting screwed over with this trans agenda. And just to give an example, I don't think we need to worry about trans male bodybuilders being a serious competitive threat to biological males in bodybuilding competitions, right? At least I don't think we do. I don't see that happening ever, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think below, and let's go ahead and move on to the next story. And guys, this one was a lot more upsetting to me because a seemingly nice and well-regarded high school French teacher and a father of 4 children under the age of 10 had to lose his job because he wouldn't go along with this trans activist agenda, which he believes to be in conflict with his Christian values. So this happened in Virginia at West Point High School, which is a public school by the way, and this story broke last week. The teacher's name is Peter Vlaming, and what apparently happened was there was a slip up when a female to male trans student was about to run into a wall for whatever reason, and Mr. Vlaming just told some nearby students to stop her. And he used the wrong pronoun. He said stop her instead of saying stop him. And then of course controversy ensued. He ended up having to meet with the administrators, and the principal told him that he had to respect the students' wishes and use the male pronoun. And then Mr. Vlaming said he couldn't do that because of his Christian faith, which was an unacceptable response, of course. And so this then led to a 4-hour hearing that drew lots of attention, and the school board ultimately voted unanimously to fire him. So first of all, shame on those administrators. And another interesting piece here is that Mr. Vlaming actually taught this same student the previous year before she decided to transition. So you can imagine the confusion and slip-ups that might accompany such a situation. In any case, here's what Mr. Vlaming's lawyer had to say in his defense. He said that Mr. Vlaming had offered a compromise in which he would use the student's preferred name, but not the preferred pronoun, but the school rejected this proposal. His lawyer went on to say that non-discrimination policies were updated a year ago to include protections for gender identity, but did not include guidance on gender pronoun use. And also that Mr. Vlaming has constitutional rights, of course. One of those rights that is not curtailed is to be free from being compelled to speak something that violates your conscience. Mr. Vlaming said he loves and respects all his students, but when a solution he tried to reach based on mutual tolerance was rejected, he was at risk of losing his job for having views held by most of the world for most of human history. That is not tolerance, Vlaming said, that is coercion. Public schools have no business compelling people to express ideological beliefs that they don't hold. This isn't just about a pronoun, this is about forcing someone to endorse an ideology under threat of losing his job. That's neither legal nor constitutional. Right, so obviously I agree with this 100%, but nevertheless, Mr. Vlaming is still fired. He is on paid administrative leave for now, and he is thinking about appealing this on constitutional grounds, but he hasn't made up a decision just yet. And just a heads up for you guys, there is a GoFundMe page for his legal expenses that has raised over $20,000 so far, and I will link that below if you guys want to contribute. And before I kick this back to you guys, I do want to share some kind praises of Mr. Vlaming from some of his students. One student, Wyatt Peterson, said, "He's an amazing man. I think he really was going with what he believed was right, and it's really unfair that he's being punished for that, especially in such a dramatic way." Another student, Zachary Gonzalez, said, "I feel everyone should have the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion as well." And lastly, I was really happy to see this. Many students and supporters actually staged a walkout protest outside the school in solidarity with Mr. Vlaming, and here's what that looked like.
We want justice! When do we want it now?
Students at West Point High School feel that teacher, Peter Vlaming, was unfairly disciplined, then fired.
I feel like we really need him back because a lot of people are really upset, and he has 4 kids, so it's kind of hard for him to lose his job right now.
Alright, so to wrap this video up, I know we've been discussing this trans issue a lot, but as you can see, it continues to be a very relevant and controversial news topic. And personally for me, it's also just very fascinating from a neurobiological perspective. And just to reiterate, I'm not coming at this from a hateful perspective. You know, I've always viewed this as an interesting sociobiological phenomenon that's still a work in progress in terms of our scientific understanding. But it is very clear to me that these people are experiencing a complex and troubling mental crisis. They're not acting. They do genuinely believe what they say, so I think the best approach for society at large is to continue studying it rigorously, and hopefully we can develop some effective treatments. The left has the wrong approach. They're obviously trying to normalize it into the mainstream with sports and pronouns and firings and bathrooms, and most importantly, many leftists support transitioning gender-confused children, which I'm 1000% against. So if you've been following the channel, you know I'm against this kind of progressive activism, but I'm against it for rational reasons, not because I have a visceral disgust or hatred that I think many people do unfortunately have. Anyway, one last thing. Some of our patrons have been asking about alternative crowdfunding options for the channel in light of the Sargon debacle, and so we are waiting on approval from Subscribestar, and I'll let you guys know when that's ready, but in the meantime, you can always support us on